you guys have done this. So now you guys get out there and go do it. But you guys are already ahead of the curve. So you guys have been doing it, and you don't really need the motivation to do it per se. But but yeah. So after talking to Dieta last week, yeah. So this is the last class. You guys can basically email me anytime. I will be coming here often. So yeah. So the relationship doesn't just stop today. So I just want you guys to know that. My wife is currently with Michelle Block right now, and they are getting interviewed to be on the board at the center, the city center market. So my wife is doing that, and yeah, so we're just trying to get busy. We're gonna just keep doing that. So all right, so last week or 2 weeks ago, I promised you guys an article about the very first gun control case within our country. And I found it again. So I found it and I sent it to each of you. But the issue was that I sent it via Pages, which is Apple's version of the PDF, which that's why you guys couldn't open it. So I'm like, after I got a email from, what's it, Diane? I'm like, yeah, it was Pages. I forgot to convert it to PDF, so you guys could not open it. So I decided to print it, and the case in which I will be fixing and then sending it back to you guys, so you guys can have that weapon underneath your belt in case someone ever wants to, yeah, fight us or mention, something as ridiculous. So the case is Nunn versus the state of Georgia of 1837. And it's a long one, but I'm just going to read you guys their final verdict. It says, nor is the right involved in this discussion less comprehensive or valuable. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the whole people, old and young, men, women, and boys, and not militia only. Not militia only. All right? Not militia only, but men, women, and boys, and girls, and not militia only. So the idea that the people cannot have the weapons or guns, only the militia, should really just go away, right? But you think that will go away, even though we have historical document and we have their wording that it's not for militia only. And then they went on to say, to bear arm of everything description, and not such merely used as by the militia, shall not be infringed. And then they basically said it again. I think that was very important because they kind of knew, that the Second Amendment was clear, but people will try to go around it. So they had to state this again within a case. And the case is Nunn versus Georgia, 1837. So if you guys ever want to just remember it, but I will be trying tonight to convert that back to PDF, send it to you, and you guys can read it. Send it to your family, your friends, and whoever ever object to that the Second Amendment only was meant for hunting. Oh, there you go. Was that 1846? Can you go down a little bit? Let's make sure. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. So, so this one's so this is a very hot topic. I mean, obviously, because now you see all of these shooting that are happening, and the media is doing everything they can to make sure that our Second Amendment is discouraged, and they will do everything they can to demonize the weapons, and but they will ignore that the people doing these things are all confused individual that are victim of their indoctrination, even though they will write it within their manifesto as to why they are doing these things and to who they are targeting. But yet, the FBI is going to take a while before they can release it. The very same FBI who we know are subverting our country, right? So we as people, we need to be aware, but we also need to be informed of what's happening. So don't let anyone ever tell you that the Second Amendment, even though it's clear, and you have to be patient with these people, and you just have to give them extra document, original, original intent. The words of our founding fathers were very, very clear. So I hope you guys will take that one and just keep it as a nice little info for you to give to your family and friends, and you can even have them read it out loud. Let's see how they will take that. So, all right. Okay, so last week we did not go through lecture 10, and this is the last lecture video that we will be watching. And then after that, we will just discuss a few questions, and then you guys will get your certificates for hanging in there and being involved. Oh, all right. We will talk about that. Nice. All right. Okay, Sabrina, can you start the video?
But they have not studied the Bible. They have not studied law. In lecture 10, it's our hope that you're going to be able to understand the
this is why I am very skeptical of the Convention of States people that are going around, encouraging conservatives that we will be able to bring sense back into our government that has run away, and they are overspending and they're doing all this stuff. So only if we can have three-fourths of our states signing this petition, and then our government will be forced to obey and follow the law. And I understand the sentiment, but I think they are very ill-advised. I think they are very deceived, thinking that our government will obey their words and obey them when they don't even do that now. But what I do see is the forces behind that are agreeing with them. My question is why? Why would George Soros want the same thing? To me, that is enough to say, you know what, probably is not a good idea, right? So as we began to see after the 11th Amendment, I think it was after the 14th, from the 14th to 16th, it took some time. And if you look at those amendments, they kind of started changing more. Like they kind of started being a little, just like the topic was just like, really? Like that's what we're dealing with. And spiritually, our country was going into a moral decline really, really fast. Therefore, the laws became more and more, like there were just a lot more amendments within a short span of time. And that just reminds me of the fact that when you are in bondage, you have to have a lot more rules. And more rules just signifies that something's wrong. That you have to literally limit someone to, you can go this far and that far and that far and do this and do that and do all of this stuff. So for me, spiritually, that is a diagnostic for me, is that when I start having all of these rules around myself, okay, something's wrong. Like, am I not, yeah, so something's wrong, right? And that was the same thing that was happening with us, because not every single amendment was a good idea. Even though it's within the Constitution, doesn't mean that it's a good idea. Yeah, we can legally follow every single process, but is it a good idea? No. And that's where we have to be sensible, and we have to hold even our conservative party also. Like some of the policies that they want, like you literally have to think it through. Is that necessary? Well, why? And I think one of them's going on right now is the one dealing with TikTok, right? So we know that it's not really targeting TikTok, but yet conservatives are jumping on board, saying, hey, this will ban TikTok and do all this stuff. But if you start to just think it through, because most of us have the Spirit of God in us, and we know and recognize deception whenever we see it, we're like, wait a minute here. So not every single amendment or laws or whatever, just whatever you want to name it. And that's where you and I come in at as believers, to be a light, to also challenge the people that are in office and giving them understanding and holding them accountable. Yes, sir.
Can you explain what's going on with TikTok? What beyond disbanding them? What beyond disbanding TikTok
Well, from
is?
my understanding is that it's gonna be, it's gonna ban the younger, what is it, the minors, from going on to TikTok, because there has been a lot of just complaints about how TikTok targets children and minors with certain videos and stuff that goes on their feed, you know, and that's influencing, kids and stuff. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute.
It's also owned by a Chinese company, I believe.
Yes, it is.
And so that's what there's a lot of concern there. But I also
Yep.
want to say, I think there's some language in that bill that they can be monitoring our communications.
They can be, or
Well, I'm saying
We
it
all know, yeah.
it empowers them
Yep.
to really track even
Yep.
more. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So those are all the concerns that the people with wisdom, see. And that is becoming few and few people nowadays. And that's where you and I come in. Yes, sir.
Getting back to the Convention of the States,
Yeah.
I was really skeptical about
Yeah.
that whole thing too, and I did some more reading on it. And what they're advocating now, from my understanding, is that if they open up a Convention of the States to look at the Constitution rather than the whole of the Constitution, they'll just cherry pick certain amendments one at a time, so that they're not opening themselves up to altering the really important stuff in that Constitution. So I'm kind of in favor of the Constitution of the States if they hold themselves to that standard. Yeah.
The problem with that is there is nothing set in stone for that. So Institute on the Constitution has a full-length video, which I highly recommend. Matter of fact, I will bring it so all of us can watch it. Like, it's that good. Like, he went into historical detail as to how it has never worked in history. So I saw it a couple months ago. So I'm still, listening to it and stuff. But I can talk to Dieta, and he has, Pastor David Whitney's a lawyer also. So he studied this for years. And he can go into details just break it down a lot better than I can. So I don't want to butcher it for anyone. But, yeah.
I don't know if they addressed what I just mentioned, that does this video that you're talking about, do they talk about the orientation of the Convention of the States to really just kind of grab hold of certain amendments and deal with those and change them so that makes the federal government more accountable, and leave the rest alone unless they find that they need to then jump to the next one, just do one at a time, so to speak?
Yes, so their argument for that is that there isn't a planetary rule as to how the Convention of State was supposed to run or is supposed to run. Therefore, it's leaving it up in the air for whoever's doing it to make that happen. That is why George Soros Group and all of these guys know, and that's why they are also in favor of it, because there is nothing set in stone to say, hey, it's supposed to run this way, and it's supposed to run that way. So these other guys recognize that and see it, and they see it as an opportunity for them. So the other issue, too, is that, the bigger issue here is these people are lawless. So why open up your door to set a trap for them? That's how I see it also, is that you don't give them an inch at all. Like, you do not tempt them. We have a constitution. It solves the issue. The Constitution, okay, Jake has just said it, as far as taxes go, right? I mean, there is nothing stating that the federal government can directly tax us. It's not even amended into our, Constitution. It's not. But yet, the guts they have and the power and the force they have, that they can openly exploit that and do it, right? All of that should tell us something about them, right? So if they can do that in the open for a really, really long time, why subject ourselves to even more abuse and even more tyranny? And that's where I am at. I don't even want to go there. We have a constitution. The constitution will take care of our spending issue. If Congress stick to Article 1, Section, 8? The, 18 clause. That's it. If they will literally repeal the 16th Amendment, the 17th Amendment, if they will do those things, we wouldn't need a convention of state, which is also a constitutional convention. Really, it is. Because Phyllis Schlafly spoke on this back in 1974. She saw it and she was like, there is a small group of people going around for 30 years, and she spoke out against this. And now it's gaining steam. Wisconsin, I think last year just signed. So I think they need 7 or, so they need 27? Because they need 3/4 of the states. I can't remember the numbers either, but we know that it's getting close. So that's where, for me, it's I don't think it's a good idea. But David Whitney, he goes into details. I mean, he goes into historical details that it will blow your mind. And so that's something, if you guys want, you guys can talk to Dieta, and I will come, and we can watch that video, and it's really, really good, So I think that is important, because that is our problem. That is our in-house family problem that we need to get straightened out before it becomes something the mainstream media starts pushing, and then, so.
Can I add one more thing on the
Yes.
TikTok thing? So I think I'm 99% sure it was Ben Shapiro on his show with the Daily Wire was talking about, if you look at how the algorithm is structured for American kids versus Chinese kids, it's insanely different in that it's all overly sexualized, a bunch of just absolute crazy LGBTQ, WXYZ individuals. Yep. And then if you look at the Chinese side of it, what the algorithm focuses them on, it's all academics and bettering themselves and all sanity related things, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah. And this is why President Trump was warning us for a long time, about TikTok. Even before I even knew of TikTok, I'm like, what is TikTok? And why is he even talking about it, And then all of a sudden, TikTok became such a big thing, and even the way how our companies and our country allows foreign companies to be ran in our country. All of those things are also concerns. I mean, China can basically have whatever they want here, but Apple is subject to a lot of Chinese overlords, literally, monitoring everything they do. And every single non-foreign company, you know, here can do what they want. I mean, within reason, you know, but still they have a lot of power. Whereas we, whenever we go to these other countries, we don't have that same reciprocal. You know, it's not. So those are the things for us as believers to be concerned about. So the other topic Jake talked about was the 14th Amendment when he was talking about, you know, the idea of immigration, right? We know that the Constitution doesn't talk about immigration. It talks about naturalization. But yet immigration and the history of it and how even now to this day, it's not even like corrected. Like the proper form of immigration isn't even followed because the word immigration refers to people coming in, right? And the Constitution talks about naturalization, and this is where we have the whole idea of anchor babies. Like that idea had birth what we have now. It literally encourages people to come over, you know, and for them to do, you know, like the law or that idea has encouraged a mass migration over here. But yet the Constitution, I mean, it's in, okay. So Amendment 14 says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction of our citizens of the United States and the states wherein each they reside. So a lot of people want to focus on the all person born. But the real thing is the subject to the jurisdiction of it. So anchor baby isn't subject to the jurisdiction of America because their parents, where they came from, are not American citizens. But we have to have compassion. I mean, I think Ronald Reagan signed the immigration law, you know, and I was young. I think I was like 1 when that happened. So I go back in history and read it, you know. But it was well-meaning. I'm sure he got pressed by the George Bushes and all those other people that were under him and wanted more of a global society, you know. But it's not even amended. The 14th Amendment still talks about naturalization, doesn't say anything about immigration. But yet the process, even when Congress writes these laws, Congress still is subject to the Constitution. And I think this is where you and I get lost because we think because Congress can write it, then it's okay. It must mean it's okay. But this is where our courts comes in and says, hey, Congress, you guys are getting it wrong or supposed to. So that's how the process should work. Congress writes these laws or these, what do you call them nowadays? I can't even remember. But the Supreme Court, bills, and the Supreme Court's supposed to look at it and say, yep. But even they aren't even doing their job anymore. So that's where you and I come in. And we need to be educated on it and say, hey, that's not what the 14th Amendment says. Well, how do you know? Well, you are not a law student or whatever it is, right? But it says so right there in plain English, in plain writing or original intent. You go back and find all of these original intents, like the Nunn versus Georgia, you know, it's all here. It's all there. But these are not for them, actually. It's not for our elected official. It's for us to educate ourselves, but then also educate the people around us. Because that's where the changes will be at. I know we want to go straight towards the head and say, hey, get it right. But a lot of those people are already compromised. They're already compromised, whether it's with money, they're compromised sexually, they have something on them. Even our state's officials. It doesn't change. When you have some Republican doing things that are questionable, trust that instinct that something's wrong. They are not just ignorant. Something else is going on. They are compromised somehow.
Isn't that something that we talked about in here too, when they were talking about how come there's gotta be so much security in our national Washington DC area?
Yep.
You know, it's a fortress and it's not, they're trying to do everything they can illegally, but not allow anybody to
dissent.
find out about it.
Yep. Then if we go, then we look like we are the aggressors.
And I think one of the problems is our nation does not believe in God, so the nature and nature's God doesn't affect them. And they don't believe in the Constitution. They could care less. They want to actually get rid of the Electoral College. Is that not right, Alex? And the purpose of the Electoral College is to give even the smaller states, rural America, middle America, as much of a chance so it doesn't just go to the coasts.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
So the 12th Amendment deals with the Electoral College and how it's supposed to be ran. And even to this day, it's not even ran the way that it's supposed to be ran. But it's still better than what we are going towards. I am not trying to make it better. The 17th Amendment has really become really how our country's ran. The 17th Amendment deals with us voting in our senators, which that's not how it originally was. The states used to send their representative. So the states had control over their senators, whereas the House was represented by the population, the states were represented by the state legislatures. But the 17th Amendment bypassed that. Now it's the people. Just vote them in. So every single amendment isn't a good idea. So let's just put it like that. Just because it's in the Constitution doesn't mean that it's a good idea.
So, Dave, I don't mean to burst your bubble here on how many people believe in God, but we had a booth at the county fair here for 5 years, and we called it "Who's Your Daddy?" And we were debating evolution versus creation, right? One of our survey questions to as many people as we could that would come to our tent, we might have 1,200 people that would answer the question, do you believe that you exist because of a random chance thing called evolution, or do you think you exist because a loving God has created you? And about 85, 90% of the people said loving God.
We're probably the most conservative.
True. But I mean, even Washington County, they're down by, the number dropped to like 80 to 85%. So yes, the more you get into the populated areas, it really drops. But still a good foundation of people. So I guess maybe to describe this is that there's a great deal of apathetic spirit among people that believe in God, right? And that's why we're in our dilemma. Education is so important, and truth telling is so important, right? So, but anyway, I just wanted to share that because I think the mentality for people, they realize, all this stuff didn't happen randomly, right? There had to be a designer behind it. People really understand that. That's what scriptures talk about. That, you know, God reveals himself through nature, right? And nature's God. So, any rate, we have that going for us, but it's just the idea that there's so much, we have an advocate, or excuse me, an adversary that is spirit of deception coming from satanic sources, right? And what we're fighting against. Yeah. Well, all right.
And also too, we have the speed of information within our society. Everything is so much faster. So because of that, there is a lot more room for distractions, even for us Christians, even good things that have been a distraction for us, which caused us to go into a spiritual complacency or spiritual distraction. Whereas the focus for us isn't on winning souls anymore. I mean, deep down inside it is, but we're conflicted now because we want to provide a certain, whatever it is. Like, we have a certain God that is on the throne. And it's a struggle, whether it's your career or whether it's time, and it's this and it's that. And are we at the feet of Jesus seeking his will every day, all day? And I can't say yes. Like, I can't say that. Like, to my shame, I mean, I'm struggling with finding time, you know, like sometimes in the morning, I'm struggling to get up to do my devotions because I have a 16-hour work day and I have business stuff that I have to do. I have family stuff that I have to do. And every day I make a conscious decision. You know, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Sometimes I get up, I just go to work. And I know that I'm going to pay for it later, but then doing that for a couple times a year, that becomes a habit. Eventually, I'm farther away from the Lord than I intended, you know. Those are all the struggles for us as just everyday lay people. But then also the churches, the pastors have become very complacent. They have become compromised. So that's why our founding fathers, they upheld a lot of the preachers because they understood that they were the ones who were affecting the people. And some of them weren't religious men, but they understood the importance of Christianity and the values of Christianity to a society. And you and I know that every single society where Christianity is there is a lot more freedom. There is a lot more liberty. And everywhere else that Christianity is stamped out, there isn't freedom. There isn't liberty. There is a physical darkness, but most of all, there is a spiritual darkness.
Somebody bursted Dave's bubble, Bill. Well, I'm here to burst your bubble. There's one person in history that believed in God, but it didn't mean that it was good. Who was that? There you go. Satan believed in God. What did?
Yeah, the demons.
So we got people that maybe.
Well, it's really hard in our church. I go to First Baptist, but a lot of churches are like our church, and there's a lot of people that they're not informed. They don't really care to be, and they don't want to get upset, and a lot of people don't see what's going on. They're watching just mainstream media. They don't check their sources. They don't double check their sources, and a lot of people, I'm not going to give any names here, but a lot of people say that both sides need to get together. It's basically one side that's pushing a lot of this bad stuff. But it's an ideology and it's evil. We're fighting evil. And one thing I appreciate about you, Alex, is you're a great patriot, but even more so, you're a great Christian. we can see God leading you in all your patriotism and everything like that. And I think that's the key, is Christianity, following Christ, letting the Holy Spirit lead and guide us as we reflect Him to people, helping them understand the Constitution and know about it and so forth. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, I've got a kind of an idea here, but the thing is our government is set up right now to where the only time the left is using the Constitution is against us. Otherwise, the Constitution doesn't mean anything to them. And are we going to believe that our elections are done fair yet? Because we all know that they're not. They're rigged. Look at Katie. Katie's case there is just an absolute disaster. She can go to the courts and fighting this thing, and all I win is having the Supreme Court send it back to the same people that just destroyed it. Trump lost this election. You want to really believe that? We all know he didn't lose it. And what have we done? We've sat there and let him get degraded constantly. How come everybody that worked for him has gotten hauled into chains and leggings and going in front of courts, and the Democrats are just sitting there giggling and behind the curtain? It just seems that, okay, the Constitution is a wonderful thing if it was used the way it's supposed to be, but it is not being used. It's used against the Republicans as much as it is not used at all on their side. So I hope that God comes and corrects this. And I pray that He does.
It's just a matter of when, and
when?
He will, but we just have to be patient and endure until. So that's the painful part for all of us, is waiting until He comes and judges, because that's only when true justice will be served. You and I, we just get to practice what heaven's gonna look like on earth, and fighting the war here and now. This is our promised land, as far as per se, but we know eternity is the goal. And until then, we will have tribulation. Jesus guaranteed that, so that's not even a question for us. The thing is, when He comes back, will He find faith? There's a lot of people that are getting discouraged, that are fading away. There's a lot of people that are walking away from God. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I think it's both, because that just hear me out. Persecution purifies the church, right? It separates the fake from the phonies. I mean, the phonies from the real people. There's a lot of people that when things are good, they want to believe in God. Everything is great. But if you look throughout history, persecution always came to Christians, but that purifies the faith, purifies you as a believer. Where is your true faith is at? So that's why Scripture encourages us, examine ourselves. It isn't for salvation per se, but it's more like, are we walking according to the will of God? Well, the first thing is, do I even know Him? That is the first question. After that that's why we need to keep close to Him every day, because all of us are subject to the same, temptation of disbelief or unbelief. So that's what I meant about it's a good and a bad thing, because it shows. I mean, look at what COVID did, I mean, just look at what the little persecution that we as American just went through for 2 years. Well, welcome to North Korea. Welcome to China. That's all these people know. But yet, look at their faith. Go ahead, if you guys.
You brought that up, so now I have to ask this question ahead of time. I wasn't going to ask it till the end. But we got a message last night concerning Governor Walz. And I can't see a thing. But it says Governor signs a bill providing resources to help ensure eligible Minnesotans keep their health insurance. And then it reads, as the federal COVID-19 public health emergency unwinds, Governor Tim Walz signed into law a bill providing something to help eligible Minnesotans keep their medical assistance. And it's the narrative I have a problem with. It's like Governor Walz doesn't sign into law. Don't they present a bill? Doesn't he?
Well,
Yeah, he does executive orders, or he thinks he should.
okay.
But he doesn't actually sign into law anything, does he?
Well, let's go
presents a
through
bill.
our basic understanding of how that works. Okay? So remember, Article 4, Section 4 says that every single state should be a republic, all right? Meaning we are ran like the federal government, but on the local level. Okay? We are a republic, and we are not a democracy. I have to start that with every single, But, so, how does our process work as far as like laws being written out? What is the basic understanding?
My basic understanding is that they present a bill, like the governor could write up a bill, it presents it to the House and the Senate, and then the House and the Senate bring it into legislation, and that's the only time that it can be passed as a law. It's a bill until it's passed as a law, but it has to go through that process. So the narrative that people are reading is completely off
Opposite.
or opposite, and I'm just wondering, where's the authority there? What are we supposed to believe when this is the narrative we're reading?
I'm tracking with you.
I'm completely confused at this
Well, don't be.
as to yeah, but what do you answer to people when they say, well, no, he just signed into law this bill? And I'm like,
Well, my simple response to that is, can you explain to me how our process work? Very simple question. Most
Right.
likely, they don't understand it. That's why they agree with it, because agreeing with it makes them seem like they know something, or make them feel like they know something. But they won't say, "Well, I don't really know,"
the other issue is that, in regards to what you were saying,
Now, he's still working off the Emergency Act the state kind of acted like gives him the power to control our churches.
I'm glad you
our
brought that up.
lives,
Yep.
our this,
We're
our
gonna
that, and the
address
other
that
thing.
after. Yep.
If he's still working off that Emergency Act, somehow he got the power to shut us all down, and is he still working off of that?
Okay, so the deeper question is, do you know the history behind that Emergency Power Act? Do you know the original intent of that? Not most people do. The governor only supposed to have that emergency power for a specific reason
but what about a time?
of 30 days. 30 days. The reason for that was because 30 days allowed the people on carriages from Duluth back in the, 1800s? For all the legislatures to come to St. Paul, and he was supposed to, so basically he was the substitute until the legislature comes. And then he was supposed to back off because the governor stays in the capital city, whereas everyone else have lives and businesses, and so they had to go back. That's why that 30 days was 30 days. That was the only reason. So it blew my mind when I'm like watching all of these legislatures. Oh, he's not going to go above 30 days. he's not going to go above 60 days. I'm like, dude, you let him go 30 days. So did they know that? Or were they, I mean, I'm hoping they were ignorant. I'm just, but that's why the governor had the executive power only to keep the laws that was already written. But even if that was supposed, and just give me a second, even if that was the case, that he could make decision, there still had to be due process. Where was there due process during COVID? Does that make our laws void? Does that make our process void? When you add fear, it does. How many people were quick to give up their freedom?
They didn't have their freedom if they didn't obey the scary things that they were saying.
Well, I think that was more of an internal issue than it was.
And some churches did not close down.
Right.
One of those churches around here has got an extremely larger audience. In fact, they built a new sanctuary because they did not close down.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's just what it is, But yes, so the history of that was for 30 days, and that was only because it allowed all of the legislatures to come down to St. Paul. And then after that, they were the ones supposed to be making the decisions. But yet we have all of these governors, acting as a one-man show, as dictators, whether it was good or bad. I mean, you know what I mean? But that was the story or the original intent. But so Governor Walz did mix truth with lie. He did have the power to make those decisions,
I just was wondering.
but he didn't tell the full truth. Yeah, go ahead.
So regarding this bill, this health bill this lady was talking about, it said that he signed it into law. And to me, that bespeaks of, they've been working at lightning speed over at the legislature to push all this radical agenda, and that they may have already passed it through the House and the Senate, sent it on to him, and then he signed it. Or did he just decide it wasn't coming fast enough and decided by executive order, sign it and let it become law that way?
I don't think it says, I don't think it's that part, but I think it's, I mean, basically right now, everyone's working for him. Like, we have a House and a Senate that is just as crazy as he is.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's no, I mean, they are in unison. Boy, are they working together. So,
I think our legislators need to learn the Constitution. I'm surprised during this executive action that none of the legislators,
told a lot of them.
none of the legislators that I know even brought up the
I
Constitution.
told a lot of them. I told quite a few of them.
You have.
But
Isn't the Attorney General and the Secretary of State and some of them already the ones that have been given him the authority to increase it
yeah,
every month? Mm-hmm. They just say, well, we'll give him another month.
yeah, we will give them another 30 days. We'll give them another 30 days. But it was never the legislature and Kozelka and all these other guys. They just went along with it.
So you've been talking to legislators
I talked. Oh yeah, I was down at the Capitol. I mean, I was talking to them. Even before that even happened, I'm like, guys, this is what's happening. And my pastor had been warning us for years. So after when I finally saw that he was right, I'm like, oh man, I need to start letting these guys know, but what do I know? I'm just a citizen, so.
So that's why everybody, when people always wonder, what can I do? What can I do? Things aren't going to change. You need to write representatives, not even just yours, but
Yep.
every single one of them that's in the House and every single one of them that's in the Senate. Because let them know, let the Republicans know that you're praying for them, that you're standing up with them, and let the other ones know you're not following the Constitution.
They do. They just don't want to use it, or they'll use it against us. And that's what they're doing in the federal government right now, constantly.
Use the mic, yeah.
Otherwise, it's just this big empty silence on the live stream.
Oh, gotcha.
It's like it's somebody talking and like you can't hear it, or Alex just like staring, and it just makes the video long.
Blank space, blank space.
All right, blank space.
So
Breathe in.
I've been trying to have conversations with as many people as I can. The hardest people to have conversations with are my own children who have children.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering about ideas on how we address that, because they're getting most of their information from Instagram, TikTok, Facebook,
Yeah.
and nobody else seems to matter. So, you raise them up to a certain point, and then you have to let them go. But when you want them to understand what's important to them, then where do we come together on that issue? Prayer is a start.
Yep.
I got a few thoughts as one of the youngest individuals in this room. So I think prayer is probably the biggest thing, because Holy Spirit can get in there and do things you'll never be able to do. And then just asking questions. If you bring up a topic and they seem to not care, probably let it go. But then if you can try to use that discernment and find a good time, well, why do you think this isn't important? Or how do you think this doesn't affect you? And you make it about them, because then it's not, you need to do this, you need to do
Yep.
that. It's, well, where are you at? And then you can kind of have little doors opened where you either let them kind of just sit and think when they don't have answers, or if you're able to, you can just plant little seeds that then grow.
Absolutely agree with her. We live in a me society right now. So if you make it about them, yeah. I totally agree. That's how I deal with people.
I'm going to try to segue a little bit here.
Okay.
We had a town hall meeting with our state senator here last week. And one of the things I wanted to find out from him is, if you look at the state of Oregon, you're probably well aware of the counties that have voted to secede from the state of Oregon and connect themselves to Idaho.
Yep.
And so I wondered if, I'm hoping they succeed,
Yeah.
because that'll encourage other states to consider, including Minnesota. And I just was thinking about, boy, that would be great. Get one county here to secede and hook up with North Dakota or South Dakota, or even, or Iowa, yeah. So,
All of us
I mean,
around the
what a-
cities, just where we are part of South Dakota. Only St. Paul, Minneapolis is Minneapolis. Yeah.
Are you aware of any? And now it's a long stretch. That's
Yeah.
what his Mark Coran's, response was to that. But, and I understand that, and I agree. Probably it is a real long stretch to actually see that happen. But on the other hand, if things get so bad, if this stuff that they're shoving down our throats starts to really hit the bottom of the stomach, that people are going to want to vomit it out, right? And so I'm just thinking, I'm not familiar with the Minnesota Constitution, and I don't know if I know the U.S. Constitution is your
Yeah.
big apple.
Yep.
But is there anything in our state constitution that would prevent a county from seceding from the state and joining up with another state? That would be interesting to know.
That'll be interesting
Yeah.
study. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, if I can say, I mean, based on the U.S. Constitution, I mean, it is our prerogative. I mean, we can follow that. We can follow that model.
Right. We've had
And but
states
use that.
split, like Virginia, West Virginia.
Yep. But that was earlier on, and
Yeah.
they were newer, and I mean, it's gonna be a bloodbath. Honestly, I mean, it's gonna be real hard. I mean,
Well, they say over in Oregon that all these counties that are seceding, they had referendums. Everybody voted, yep, let's do it.
Yeah.
Idaho government is passing some stuff to make way for that to happen. Now they're just waiting for the Oregon government to, do whatever they have to do to let that happen. But they're all conservatives on the one end, and on the other end they're
Yeah.
all liberals. So
I
yeah.
doubt the liberals going to want the conservatives to go, because they need those guys to work hard to provide them with the funding for them to be lazy, but have power. So, yeah,
We have our constitution, but we don't have the state's constitution in writing. Is there something similar for our state constitution?
Yeah, so there is a chapter leader in Princeton, matter of fact. She is working on something, but that was last year. We talked about it, and she wanted me to come along, but I'm like, I just don't have time to be able to write up, like to do the research and stuff. But I will contact her and just ask her how far is she along on, on it, but if it does end up coming up, it's definitely going to be out. I know that. I know Maryland has theirs on the U.S. Constitution website, but I know we are working on ours right now. So I'm kind of hoping she's a lot further along than, so, because I know it's going to be set up like this one, where it goes into the details and the original intent and very detailed as far as the information goes. So hopefully it'll be soon. Right? All right, well, just one more other topic that I would like to talk about, just like the whole idea of taxes, and I mean, the fact that the federal government taxes us, directly hits us. Where is that within our Constitution? It's not even there. It's not even there. There is no direct tax. It was supposed to be through the states, and the states decide how they want to do it. But we get hit by the federal and we get hit by the state. And these are the topics that I bring up to people, and just try to start up conversations, and listen to them talk and complain about businesses. Sometimes I go to liberal places in St. Paul, and we start conversations about their business. Do they like the taxes? Do they care? Most of them don't really. They don't really like it, but they won't openly say it. Just because they're worried about offending. But yeah. So the idea that the federal government is supposed to use the census. That's why we take census. For taxing, but also for representatives, right? I mean, so that's how the taxes are supposed to work, not the federal government directly hitting us. That hasn't been amended. It's still there. But yet, the IRS is around.
Just a quick comment on that. Not so much about taxes, but census. Now we get this, because we have a farm, we get this agricultural census. And they are hound dogs.
I don't even,
They are hound dogs. And,
I don't even answer it.
And they threaten that you could get jail time for this. You could have your taxes withheld if you have a return. You could, all these threats. And I'm like, who are you? You're not censoring if I live here in the state where I live. You're censoring my agricultural doings. It's like you don't have any right to know that.
It's, I don't know how many pages long, and we keep throwing them out, but they do start threatening, on that stuff too. But it's like, okay, you got a couple chickens. This is supposed to be farm, which is, I would assume, income farm, or not in our case. But, okay, so how many eggs are you getting a day? Yeah. It's like, I finally said, Daryl, you just answer a few questions and send it in. It is none of their business.
I don't even give them
It's
Any.
it's bad.
Nope.
It's pages and pages.
Yep.
So
But one thing that I should encourage all of us here, especially with us who have farmlands or whatever, we should talk to our sheriffs to make sure if these people decide that they are going to try to scare us, will our sheriffs have our backs? Because technically a sheriff can arrest these guys if they try to come into our county. If they come in our county and try to do whatever they think they can do, if our sheriffs have enough guts, they can say, you are not touching any citizen here. This is not your jurisdiction. And you don't have any authority to do this. As long as you stay within that county, you're safe. But if you go down to Ramsey County for whatever, and if they catch you, well, then they're going to arrest you then. Because the sheriff doesn't have authority in Ramsey County. The Ramsey County Sheriff does, and I guarantee you the Ramsey County Sheriff is not going to protect you. You know? So, yeah.
So I have a question and then a comment, something I thought of probably a half hour ago in looking at the Constitution here, our pamphlet. So on the amendment, the 11th Amendment. Oh, no, the 16th. So the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment amongst the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Can you explain that a little more? And then when I was looking down at the asterisks and saw the 16th and the 17th were amended, were ratified in 1913. Wasn't 1913 also the year with the changing from gold to our fiat currency? And you were limited on how much you were able to own, and they were telling everybody to turn in their gold for this paper stuff that we are still using. Trying to use, let's put it that way. So anyways, can you explain the amendment a little more? So, and my thought is with the whole 1913 thing, with these two amendments and the whole change from the gold standard as far as people to try to get them to use this paper and turn in their gold, there has been a group for over 100 years trying to change this country and take it down. And to me, those three things right there in 1913 were quite a big part of their plan.
Okay. All right, so go back to Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. Clause 3. So let me just read that for you. It says, representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers. Yes. So direct taxes shall be apportioned among the states, by the states. So directly taxing us, the census were also for the representative part of it, but then also that's how the states collected money. So the amendment was 16, you said? Bypass the states, per se, and allowed the federal government to do that. Is that consistent with how our Constitution is supposed to work? is that consistent with Article 1, right? Article 1. Let's go back to Article 1, Section 8. Because that is our check on the federal government. The states can do it however way they want. But the federal government cannot touch us. But even if it is amended, is it a good idea? Or should it have even happened? I think that's where the conversation like this should have been thought about. It's not consistent with Article 1, Section 8, the 18th clause, and it's not consistent with the 9th or the 10th Amendment.
But wasn't it amended and ratified?
Yes. So, back then, should that have happened? And that's where precedence was set, given authority where authority shouldn't have been given. Article 1, Section 8 is their confinement. They knew that government will always want to try to get out of that. Always want to try to get out of that. So that's why they were like the 9th Amendment. We have many other rights. I can never remember it, but the checks on them. But then we started seeing how the 17th Amendment, was even brought up, and it was, but was it a good idea? The country was changing. We let a little compromise happen. Keeps on going. Just like the 30-day thing.
I'm going to bring an obscure thing. The library had that it's perfectly normal.
Ugh.
And that wasn't perfectly normal way back when. Well, with government, they got the same philosophy. It's the new normal. So we're not going to be able to go back. I mean, we're trying to, but it's going to be really hard choice. It's just, this is the new normal. If I were them, I would, and I almost think like them sometimes, I'd argue against you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you guys are nuts. You shouldn't do that, but that's not right. But, and so that's the kind of argument you're going to get.
Yeah. I get it,
Then again, it is in the Constitution. So that's where we need to go. We need to be teaching that.
Yeah, it's in the Constitution, and we can argue that it was a dumb idea. The 17th Amendment took away our representatives and made us more of a democracy. It wasn't a good idea. It wasn't the original intent of our founding fathers. There are rooms for debate. They gave us that. But that's why John Adams said that our country only works if we're moral people. Benjamin Franklin said, if we can keep it. It was our responsibilities to be educating our children, our neighbors, our future generations, to uphold the values that we have. But just like the nation of Israel, the later on generation forgot God. Then they went back into bondage, they cried out to God, and God rescued them, and the cycle begins again. That's where we're at. So putting all of that within perspective should help us be more compassionate, patient, long-suffering, long-suffering, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so hopefully that kind of answers your question, and I can't say that the Constitution is perfect, but it's the best thing the world has. But there are rooms for debate. and there are room for us to work these things out within our country. So
On
hope that
Wed-
encouraged.
On Wednesday night, we had a meeting at the library, Kurt Dout, and, or Mark Ran, I'm sorry. And I asked him, I says, how constitutional are all these laws that this state are making? And he says, it doesn't matter if it's basically said it didn't matter as long as they pass it, it's law. He said, yeah, we can, there are people out there arguing it, but as long as they pass it, well, you know this state's gonna pass. Our abortion law is the worst in the world right now. And so we're under a law unconstitutional. We can scream and yell at it's unconstitutional. So how do we defend ourselves? We just can just the law is going to take us down if we resist too much. And that's I realize that what's supposed to happen, but when they make laws and disregard the Constitution, we're sitting here learning about the Constitution. Really great that we are. But when I'm sitting in jail, nobody's going to listen to me either.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, who is?
Here's the thing. We know persecution's coming.
Right.
We know that. It's a matter of each of us will have a ministry, whether we want to or not. I mean, we will. We just have to be convicted enough within ourselves, or not within ourselves. Okay. We just have to be convinced that regardless of what's going to happen, we are going to endure. The goal is maybe the Lord has a jail ministry for you. My pastor been saying this for like 20 years. Oh, he knows that he's going to go to jail. Like, it's not even a question. He knows, and he is ready. He is ready for it, and he has been preaching that for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so mentally, spiritually, he is there. And he is, I would like to joke sometimes, welcoming it just by some of the things that he says. But that's how, that is how committed he is to following the Lord. Regardless to where he's at, he's going to preach the gospel. Because that's what saves. Politics is just a vehicle. That's really what it is.
Right. Well, and we the people need to actually represent ourselves through our leaders, and we have been too nice for quite a long time. You know, Christians thought that was our job, was to be nice, basically. But we need to be out there, and Dieta would be, a testament to this.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be knocking on doors. We need to be talking to people. We need the right people representing us, and we just haven't been very adamant about that. And it's it's times like these when we get together that we can start those things happening in our own neighborhoods.
I think you're right on talking about who we can influence and how. This man here, Bob Lex, he's 95 years old, 94. He's got. I'm just trying to see if he's awake.
Yeah.
He falls asleep. But he's got a ministry. He's written a book entitled Love. Yeah. And he goes to restaurants and he'll try to find a divine appointment. He's eating some good food. He's going all over in some good places. But he's made a lot of contacts, and now he's seeing people that already have the book. He's been in so many places. He's also got a jail ministry. And he also has a heart for sex trafficking and human trafficking, and has taken in a couple of people in that. I think God's put us in certain places for such a time as this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's exactly right, that we need to allow the Holy Spirit to tell us what our gifts are, let us use our gifts. And some of us are good at talking to young people. Some of us have a heart for prisons. The other day I found out that one of my former students is up at Moose Lake, and I didn't realize that these guys were ministering to him, so I'm going to be going up there with them and seeing him and encouraging him. But each one of us has a assignment from the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we should find.
Yes, sir.
There's a new song out, and I think everyone should listen to it. Maybe some of us already have, but its name is God, We Need You Now.
Man. Man.
You know
Oh, yeah.
Another thing too that I think we kind of get caught up in is the whole idea of what the left wants, which is, oh, we're just watching our governor pass all these executive orders, like what the heck are we going to do? And feeling that hopelessness and sitting there. I mean, the Upper Midwest Law Center is a great one to watch because, like, with the executive order thing, they actually sued Governor Walz and didn't want any money or anything, but they got his signature on paper that he will not shut down churches again. So even though they're starting to do these things and trying to get away with it, I mean, you obviously can speak with your money far more than your words sometimes. That goes a little bit farther. But there are still, it's important to remember that there are still agencies and organizations and attorneys and other people who are in the political field fighting the battles, not just in the legislature, but going after these individuals who want to make unwise choices.
Man. Agreed. Yeah. So just so we can just finish up. This class was for you guys. Really, that's what it was for, to encourage you. Remember when I said you guys are not crazy? I meant it. You weren't, because I'm pretty sure you kind of questioned it a little bit, like, I know something's wrong here. And you were right. Something is wrong. The issue is not you. The issue is them. The issue was what you were seeing. Your eyes wasn't lying, you know? So hopefully you guys have gained something out of this class that will encourage you in your journey the Lord has for you. And I don't take this lightly, you know, and we probably will never know until heaven, the other side, that all of these pieces will be put together. So my encouragement to you guys is just continue to fight the battle, continue to endure, you know, until the Lord comes back or until he takes you home, you know, and that's when all of the hopelessness and, you know, just the tiredness will go away, you know. I mean, in heaven, you will be working still. I mean, you will have something to do, but the Lord will be reigning, you know. So just want to encourage you is that this is only temporary. I mean, this is a temporary place that we're at, you know. So let us keep our eternal perspective, endure till the end, keep our eyes on the focus on Jesus. And it's really that simple. We are the one that makes it harder when we don't submit wholly and fully to him. I got to remind myself of that because I am always distracted. But yes, so I really hope you guys, you know, take this. And if you can do one thing, just take it and share it with one other person you know. That to me is the bare minimum that I'm, you know, asking. Is that if you do that, that will really encourage me. You know, but I already know you guys are. I mean, just by listening to you guys' conversations and stuff, you know. So I have really been blessed. Hopefully that I have been somewhat of a blessing to you guys and encouraging you guys. You guys can reach out to me, and I will purpose to make it around here more often, because the relationship just doesn't end now. So, but yeah, definitely. Thanks, brother. All right. All right, well, Lord, just want to thank you for this time. Thank you for the last couple months and just how you orchestrated everything. So, Lord, I just pray for your leading of your Holy Spirit, Lord. You have each and every one of us exactly where you want us, Lord, physically. And but, Lord, I pray that spiritually we will just respond to receiving all that you have for us, and that we will walk in obedience, and that we will just continue to just seek you until the very end for us, Lord. So, Lord, I just pray for everyone here, Lord, and just pray that you will continue to just bless them, bless the ministries that you have for them. And I just pray, Lord, that they will just endure to the very end. In Jesus' name, amen. Oh.